Hey, welcome to the David Ross Show. We are broadcasting from downtown Olympia, Washington. There's been a demonstration and some violence and vandalism. There's somebody dressed head to toe in black. Capitol Boulevard, if you're not from Olympia, is the kind of the old main street through the state capital city of Olympia. And it is the street that the actual Capitol campus is on. You'll see here in just a moment that a massive amount of damage was done to a brand new state building. I think it's a general administration. Now they call it enterprise services. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, at least 10 big panels smashed on what it looks like it is called the Helen Summers. Don't know who she is, but the Helen Summers building right here. Commonly referred to as the, as you can see, a whole lot of police presence. City of Olympia is already out in force with some type of public works. And a whole lot of police presence over at the Capitol Dome itself. There's been reports of rocks being thrown. I'm not sure if that is at cars, people, buildings, cops, all the above. And the main group seems to have kind of gone all over the place, splintered, gone into the South Capitol neighborhood, around the state Capitol campus. Not quite sure, but looks like the large police presence on the Capitol campus may just be State Patrol staging. If you're wondering, this is really the first major demonstration, protest, vandalism incident about 2 weeks. And it sort of coincides with a couple of things. Tonight there was the planned action beginning at 7:30 a.m., I believe. And we can see here State Patrol units are just pouring out of their headquarters. I don't want to get in the way of anything, but clearly they're responding to something or responding to the threat of something. So it sounds like there was a planned demonstration at 7:30 down in Capitol Lake, which is technically part of the Washington State Capitol campus. So that is usually fairly orderly, and then when it gets dark, things are not so orderly. Looks like some folks from the neighborhood are starting to file out. Some riot teams are getting prepared. And so this protest was billed as being sort of in solidarity with Portland. It also coincides with a major investigation into a local police officer that it was alleged made some kind of remark to a person of color who was in custody, and created quite a local controversy. And the investigation, these are Olympia police, bike cops. The investigation into that incident released its findings today, exonerating the officer involved. And that's posted on the City of Olympia website. You can read that, read the chief of police's response. And I wasn't there, so I don't know, really can't say anything about it other than what the investigation showed, what the chief's response was, and haven't actually read any criticism of the or analysis of the investigation in the report. But if it's any indication of folks' actions tonight, it may be, I haven't heard any chants or whether any of their chants are in response to the findings of that report or not. If you go to the Olympia Police Department website, you can read the allegations, the investigation, the findings, and the chief's response. Let some of this traffic go by before we kind of swivel around. For all of the police presence, we're not seeing the actual, although the actual large group, which was initially numbered, estimated at 50 to 60, they were kind of already on the move when we got up to where they are, or where they were. They may very well be over on the Capitol campus. From the looks of the bike patrol and others, looks like they may have ventured out into the state capitol campus that is across the street from the Capitol Dome. Or even possibly into the South Capitol neighborhood, which they've done a couple of times in recent history. Those of you just joining us, this is downtown Olympia, Washington, the state capitol. There's been a demonstration that's given way to some marching and some vandalism. had a report of rocks thrown, but the context was not given to us, whether that was thrown at cars, thrown at cops, thrown at buildings, thrown at windows. And getting a little bit of report here. We're going to see if that pans out. And from what I can hear, there are flashbangs being deployed at the post office, which is kind of a, I guess the best word for that would be a new target, a new location. The main Olympia post office is dead ahead, where all the police lights are in activity, all of the flashbangs. We're gonna see if we can get a better vantage point that's both visible and safe. The looks like we could get boxed in here if we get up between the skirmish lines. Once again, in downtown Olympia, there's been I guess we could say a riot, if not based on property damage or number of windows broken, but just based upon some kind of dispersal order given and flashbangs deployed. A little bit hard to tell if this is if these are looky-loos or if these are people who've been dispersed. It's always kind of the challenging part. There's a police bike patrol. And it isn't immediately obvious that there's any kind of damage to the post office. It doesn't look like any windows broken. Probably a smart thing, because that's federal property and those always carry much bigger, much more serious consequences. There's a pickup truck behind us with a PA system that is mooing. Not sure what that's about. Wasn't a real cow. It was a guy mooing into a PA system. And we can hear the surveillance planes above, which has been kind of a nightly thing in Olympia for about the last 2 months, at least when there's any kind of demonstration or protest activity. Well, since we're going to kind of give the police their space and keep everybody safe, and since so many people are curious about the cow, we'll see what we can find out here. Hey, maybe.
Maybe.
Is that a button, or is that you actually mooing?
No.
It's a button.
That is so cool. Pleasure meeting you.
We have a lot of folks wanting to know where the cow is, so now we know.
Back you guys up. Don't think we're part of any of this.
And as bringing a little bit of light to things as that is, well, it looks like we've got more flashbangs being deployed. So this is getting rather serious. There's reports of people open carrying, covered head to toe in a costume that make them unidentifiable, which is actually against the law. We haven't confirmed or seen any visuals of open carry weapons. Actually haven't even seen the main black bloc Antifa folks yet, but it's pretty clear that they're headed over near City Hall. Here come the here they come. So that's the main body of the protesters. They're being followed by a riot team and really a consortium of local law enforcement. A lot of umbrellas, which are used for all kinds of purposes. Sometimes defensive, sometimes offensive. Haven't had a chance to get any feedback from protesters or law enforcement. At this point, they're keeping a pretty wide berth. It sounds like pretty much any interface between is going to be skirmish. This is kind of leading to a dead end, which is there's an infamous punk house here called the Track House, which there's been some complaints of it being a sort of a safe house, an enabling house for some bad stuff. It's not clear if that's where those people are going, but it's quite a large group to try to pile into the Track House. It's been around for a long time, and it's called such because it's as close to being on the railroad tracks as possible without actually being located on the railroad tracks. And those, it's not clear. Previously, if we had a really loud, shocking bang, it was a flashbang being deployed by law enforcement. But now that we've seen so many incendiary devices and fireworks and such thrown by protesters at law enforcement, can't really tell. Just gonna be a little bit careful here. We're getting really close, and there's not a whole lot of buffer between us and the police and the protesters. That's actually well, again, there's the shell of the device, but as many people that buy little things off the internet, there's no guarantee that truly is a police item, or whether it's something that was done by protesters. Police vehicles kind of, run a hard skirmish line, and they let the officers on foot and on bike sort of lead the way in order to have more maneuverability and more visibility, really being able to see who's ducking in where and who's, if groups are splitting. being able also to hear more readily. Police are kind of doing a block by block search, and I'm gonna venture that was police, because that's tear gas. Woo! You guys okay? We're gonna get off the beaten path and get some fresh air for our eyeballs a little bit. A lot of the cops mask up. A lot of the protesters these days have taken to masking up, but we're not unless we get out of the car. I mean, we wouldn't unless we got out of the car. We don't have any masks. What am I saying? But still, that's no fun, and it, as much as it is a little bit irritating to us, it looks like it's a little bit irritating to anybody else too. So, had somebody following us that might be harmless, might not, but In this climate, we don't like to take any chances. We'll take a quick look at the State Patrol. The riot team is fully deployed right here, or at least was. Fully outfitted. Is this blocked off or can I get through there? Okay, thank you. Now we're gonna have to squeeze our way out of here. So the State Patrol riot team that had surrounded the front of the building, we might just go see. And it looks like OPD is coming back near the waterfront. Go ahead and just see where those, if that was a roadblock or if it was just a like the police units that were blocking off some of the road by Capitol Lake have moved on. This is 4th Avenue, the main street through downtown Olympia, perpendicular to Capitol Boulevard, where we spent most of the evening. Roll up the windows, get a little bit quieter in here. This is also where the City Hall is for Olympia, which is often kind of ground zero for both protests and vandalism. But with a lack of police units along here, there's probably, doesn't look to be any folks congregating at City Hall itself. On the 4th of July, it was the site of 20 large panels of glass being shattered. And I don't know whose numbers to believe, but there's somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $100,000 worth of damage, whether that glass was structural or curved or both. Looks like we've got some county riot team joining in the fray, or maybe wrapping up, not quite clear. It's going to take a little bit more pass through and see what if there's any more interface between the protesters have broken up, if they've redirected and changed routes, or if they're still in skirmish with the law enforcement and just sort of got off our radar. I'm going to see. It's a little tough, unfortunately. If you get a chance, our local leaders, mayor pro tem, city council, can't seem to disavow the violence and the vandalism and get the focus back on civil rights and possibilities for police reform. But if you check out our page, NBC just released a breaking article of actual civil rights leaders in Portland itself coming out to denounce and disavow violence and vandalism and say, this is absolutely distracting and taking away from the intention of the protest to begin with. Why 7 woke city council members in the city of Olympia cannot is beyond me. I think we've got over 40 signatories now to the resolution or declaration, whatever you want to call it. It's just a letter that says we, political leaders in Thurston County, fully support people's rights to protest and march, peacefully assemble, and engage in nonviolent civil disobedience. Here's the State Patrol riot team. Because we're kind of protecting ourselves, they may not look too friendly, but and the second sentence of that resolution says we unequivocally denounce and disavow violence and vandalism in protests. And that's basically what the article that we've just posted to the David Ross Show Facebook page says, that civil rights leaders in Portland, where it's sort of become ground zero for the anarchy takeover of the Black Lives Matters movement and protests, pretty irrefutable. I don't care how many grandmas in yellow shirts you find. As soon as they go home at 10 o'clock, all hell breaks loose, which is what we've seen here in Olympia. Kids, families, daylight, banging on pots and pans, signs, supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. And then once it gets dark, the good protesters go home, and the bad protesters punch in the clock. They're usually dressed head to toe in black. They're not at all about civil rights, equity, fairness, police reform. They're about smashing stuff. But it is good to see civil rights leaders in Portland coming out to say stop being a parasite on our movement, stop being a leech on our movement, stop trying to piggyback and colonize our movement. You can see there's probably a good 60 police surrounding the State Patrol, or surrounding the Department of Enterprise Services. And initially, because of some criticism, there was sort of a lockout, a freeze out of certain elected officials, candidates, dignitaries, or political leaders in our region not wanting to sign on this if somebody else signed on to it, and I don't want to be seen as crossing party lines. And the first time I heard that, oh my gosh, I absolutely was amazed that it was more important for a politician to not be seen as reaching across the aisle, more important for a politician to not be seen as doing something, calling for unity in a bipartisan effort to simply stop the violence and disavow violence and vandalism, while absolutely supporting the right to protest. I don't know, I'd call it heartbreaking to listen to somebody explain it to me, but more like nauseating and disgusting to hear a politician really in their own mind, coming out of their mouth, try to justify and explain why they wholeheartedly agree with the concept, but if they're seen as crossing the aisle, the party could come after them, or could hurt them, or could tear their support away. And the only good metaphor or analogy I could have for it was like the Soviet Politburo or the current Chinese Communist Party, where, you know, we'll go snuff people out for the good of the party. We will go against everything we stand for or claim to stand for, as long as it's for the good of the party. And to see people say things like that was so disappointing. But then some folks on the right started to break, falling like dominoes. Some folks on the left started to break. We live in a Tri-City area. Some folks, Lacey, Tumwater, county, state, a U.S. congressman who's widely recognized as very liberal, Democrat, former 5-time Secretary of State. And they just keep piling up. We still have to update, new signatures added even today. But we're not going to stay behind in adding them to the list. Just the opposite. We're going to trumpet it from the rooftops until maybe there's 100 of all different political stripes. And why people couldn't stand up and say, I have the moral compass. I have the spine. I have the sense of right and wrong to say you absolutely should fearlessly protest with no fear of repercussions, no reason to even have to hide your face, no reason to even have to hide your identity. But you also shouldn't be trying to strike fear into other people. You also shouldn't be hurting other people or destroying their property, destroying their jobs, destroying their ability to have a place to live or pay for their rent. So that little 2-sentence letter is called Thurston Leaders for Peaceful Protests. It's geared toward elected officials and candidates. We're in the middle of a primary right now. But there's a version just for regular old Joes like you and me to sign a little petition. It's the same thing, same sentence, saying I denounce and disavow violence and vandalism, but I fully support the right to protest, peaceably assemble, engage in nonviolent civil disobedience, and so on. Not quite sure what's happening here, but it's looks a little more serious than just a little group. So we're gonna get out from behind, folks. Looks like we have police staging. May not be so much an incident as a staging for trying to contain the movement of some of the more violent actors. We're gonna go ahead and turn, get out of the way of some folks behind us. They seem to be like having collected. If you're hearing, if you're attached to the scanner, ours is turned off right now just because we're plugged into too many things, too many phones being recharged. But something is happening that's likely coming through on the scanner that is between 4th and 5th. On that block. And between Washington Street and Franklin Street, they may very well have seen folks scattering into some of the upstairs apartments. There's been some reports that there's sort of like in hide and seek, all y'all come free, and there's a few doors that let folks in to sort of disappear. We're just checking some feedback right now. So somebody's posting, we've had 8 arrested on riot charges. And whether this congregation at the free wall is yeah.
Oh, we're sorry. One time we were following you around. We were.
You don't do that. You're scaring my boys here.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, thank you.
Yeah, we're just here to help you out.
You guys be safe, all right?
You, man.
Well, that was one of many. That sounds pompous. One of a few folks who sometimes we notice we're being followed and don't want to put anybody in harm's way. Don't want us to be in harm's way. Just want to record what's going on. We're a no news radio, no TV station, and one questionable newspaper town. So the only way we really get news these days, sadly, is through the internet. Things like live streaming, and tip a hat to Thurston County Scanner and Olympia News Network and some other folks. Jolt, the Journal of Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater. Because it is amazing to me what our local newspaper does not cover or publish. It's no longer amazing, it's just disappointing. However, my understanding is that our local newspaper went into a receivership or holding company or something, basically gone bankrupt, and is now being taken over by an equity firm or hedge fund. And after downsizing once, downsizing twice, changing office 3 times, it's looking pretty doubtful that there'll even be an Olympian or Olympia footprint in the next few weeks or months. But we'll have a newspaper with a Olympia byline and Tacoma content. So we're going to try to help pick up the slack, along with some of those others. Let's see if we can find out what's...
he got his mask on. Look at that.
Oh, he got his mace on at the same time.
That's how it works, huh? All the show. All the show. People might have painted a wall.
This looks like there's some kind of crime scene being roped off. Do you happen to know what's going on here?
Arrested 9.
Hiding in an apartment or something in this block?
What's that?
Hiding in an apartment in this block or something?
What's that?
Do you know why they're at this block?
That's where they tried to. They were trying to get the people up on 4th Avenue, and they ran this way, and they cornered them.
So it sounds like this is the site of having arrested 8 or 9 demonstrators that they're charged with rioting.
If they would like an opportunity to talk with the lawyer, I would like an opportunity to talk with them before they are incarcerated. Will you grant me access to these people? I am a lawyer. Will you grant me access to these people?
You're a lawyer, you know that's not how it works. Stand on the other side of the line. We'll get the opportunity to follow the terms.
Is the
Okay?
other line.
Thank you.
Have they asked for an attorney? Have they been told that they are under arrest? Have they been told why they're under arrest? Have you reviewed the use of force procedures? Because I heard that you gassed children there. That's fucking terrible. That's an international law violation. Are you guys providing any oversight of this? Are you guys thinking?
No. Never do.
I've heard of a lot of people who have been arrested without reading their
So were you guys clapping? Can I ask you?
No.
You weren't, or you don't want to? Okay. Not critical. Just. I mean, there's a huge diversity of opinion going on here, and whenever somebody has the little, divergent opinion, it's always cool to hear their perspective. And
I have a funny feeling you don't want to hear our perspective.
you'd be surprised. Go ahead. I won't show you. Can I hear your voice though?
Are you?
My name's David Ross. I've been streaming everything downtown as much as I
We
could.
heard about you earlier. Yeah, somebody was telling it, not in a bad way.
I'm either doing a good community service or I'm a fucking demon, depending on which side of the fence you're on.
Not on camera.
Not on camera. I mean, everybody says you stare at the ground too much, you suck at camera work. And I say, well, I've done a fair amount of camera work in my years, but there's a whole lot of people that don't want to be shown because of intimidation, doxing, terrorism, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
What do you think of this?
I, 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 I think that the people down here
To a certain-
terrorizing our city
yes, to a certain
is
extent.
not okay. I
To a
think that their
certain extent.
message was lost when they started destroying people's property who are completely innocent in this.
You said to a certain extent. Is there like a line that you would articulate? Is where we?
I can't say what that line is because it's different for everyone. That's just my personal opinion.
But yeah, police across lines in
Yeah,
a negative way
absolutely.
as well. But
Absolutely.
at the
Across
same
me in
time,
negative ways.
at the same time, they have a shitty job. They have a shitty, hard job, and
What's going on? Fill me in.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
They arrested about 9 folks for rioting.
And within the alley?
I think they sort of followed them from the post office and the, that big new beautiful building by the Capitol, General Service. Well, now it's called
Were they doing anything?
Department of Enterprise Services. Well, they smashed about 20 panels of glass on that building.
Oh,
Wow.
okay. So that's
That makes
why.
sense.
These were the protesters that were downtown?
I
You don't know who.
I shoot my mouth off left and right because I'm pretty comfortable with my opinions, but I hadn't even see the protesters tonight. They were always one step ahead or around the corner.
I saw everyone when they were gathering. This was
It's so
hours
strange.
ago.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, it's
so
7:30
weird
at
to
night
see
and it's
this
daylight.
now.
That's not when the bad stuff happens. Those
Yeah,
people
but,
check out and the black bloc.
We walked
Checks in.
up to the west side and we came back down, and this is what happened.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your feedback, guys. So apparently the dime store attorney has calmed down or taken off, and unfortunately I didn't get his bar number because I could probably use one now and then. But that is one group, and who they are and what they did will be on the Olympia jail arrest report and or the Thurston County jail roster. Also the folks at Thurston County, or Thurston Scanner, posting arrest reports of the arrestees. Not so much for the melees, the 13-person night, but more so the the assault of a award-winning high school teacher there in Charlie's. That assailant has not been found. We're keeping tabs on that. The assault on 2 members of Olympia's street community. The assault on a gentleman with a metal baton. 11 days ago on a Sunday afternoon, and a few others. Those are the violence against people that are the most widely talked about. Violence against property, there's been, I'm not going to say just because I don't have the tally in front of me, but the number of arrests, I want to say total throughout the whole melee of the last 8 weeks it's not very big. Probably somewhere around 30, I believe. For various crimes, some charged, some not, some still in process. Well, Olympia, usually one of 2 things happens right about now. Excitement dies down and it's quiet for the rest of the night. It's just about 11 p.m. getting arrested is more than folks wanted to tangle with, and they go home. Or arrests happen, things die down, people go home, and then a half dozen or so sneak back out from mom's basement and break stuff. We'll hope that that latter doesn't take place. We'll hope that over the weekend we can report even more local leaders, elected officials, and candidates for office have signed on to Thurston Leaders for Peaceful Protests. And we'll also hope that even more local citizens have signed on. You can find links to both of those, the change.org for everybody to sign, and the letter for electeds and candidates, so-called dignitaries, to sign, here on the Facebook page. Looks like they're filling up the paddy wagon now. The lawyer is back out on the sidewalk. It would almost be worth it to talk to him and listen to him, but not quite. I mean, it might be entertaining if we've had a drink or two, but never when we're out filming and kind of keeping our head on a swivel and on our toes. I'm not sure if he was actually an attorney or played one on TV, or more of a Better Call Saul kind of guy. Anyway, we got to jump on the freeway. You stay safe, Olympia. Hopefully, we won't be seeing you too soon.